Now, y'all, episode 2 and 3 were definitely a doozy, and they were very, very heavy. Okay, so let's breathe. Okay, let's take another breath. Feel better? I do too. Welcome everyone to episode 4 of my Deep Shadow Work series called Ahhh. Well, not really but Real Monsters. Now, y'all, episode 2 and 3, yeah, they were intense, okay? They were definitely kind of heavy. And I hope that my energy and my conversation kind of lightened things up for a little bit, especially in episode 2. Episode 3, I was pissed the fuck off. So I already know that it's gonna come off. It's gonna come off that way. I was pissed off. Okay. So I already know episode 3, it wasn't no lighthearted energy or nothing like that in that one. But episode 2, I tried to bring it around and make it a little more lighthearted for myself. But this episode, woo! Confirmation burp. Child. And I'm not cutting that shit out. This episode, we are not really necessarily talking about monsters, to be honest with you. Now, of course, we are going chronologically in order, so we're still within my childhood. So, of course, we have to touch on my parents. Not touching, but girl, didn't we just talk about being touched on in episode 2? Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so we are going to talk about my parents this episode, okay? And it's kind of funny because if you asked me growing up, I would have told you, yeah, they are monsters. Like, they are monsters. But that's because I'm a spoiled brat and I didn't have enough life experience to know that my parents were nothing of the sort. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, okay? So in this episode, I fully and wholeheartedly collaborated with my inner child. So these are the thoughts and perspective of both my inner child and me as my standing adult self, okay? So you're gonna see me looking down because I'm reading things, you know, from when I meditated with my inner child and all of that good stuff, okay? Also understand that nothing that I am stating or sharing in this episode, my dad has everything that I'm sharing, my dad has already shared or, you know, told to his congregation, right? My mom, she shares her story with people, but my mom is more so private, and she'll share it within small settings, small groups, or just, you know, somebody individually one-on-one. But she's clearly more reserved than my dad and I. My father and I at this point, I think my father and I, we really don't give a fuck because we understand that the things that we went through in our lives and the things that we've experienced in our lives have purpose. And the whole purpose, I really believe, for us going through the things that we had gone through and the things that, you know, we speak about when we do, you know, talk or public speak or what have you, the things that we reveal or we tell about our, you know, our experiences or our life experiences, is because we know that it's for the betterment of others, and we know that it's for the growth and the healing of those that we're speaking to, or those that we're touching, or those that, you know, we're in close proximity to at the time. Either way it goes, we know that us sharing our stories and sharing the things that we've been through helps others heal and grow. Okay, bottom line. And so God knew what he was doing when he cultivated our lives so that we would be better able to serve others, and they would better be able to relate to us, so that we could better serve them and serve their needs and help with their healing journey, right? All right. So essentially this episode is just going to be me adding my side or my perspective to the things that my dad has preached on, really, for real, but a little more, okay? but I want to be clear on something. I'm giving my perspective and my inner child's perspective and thoughts on growing up with imperfect parents who eventually got it right. Okay? Let me repeat that because that's a bar. Okay? I'm speaking on my parents who are imperfect parents who eventually got it right. Okay? So let me start off by saying that my parents, both of them came from humble beginnings. My dad grew up with, I don't know if they had any other animals. I know they had chickens and hogs, but my dad grew up down in the country. Okay. I'll call it clan country for real, because there's a lot of racism down there where he grew up, still prevalent to this day. So I kind of call it clan country where he grew up at. My mom, she grew up with humble beginnings as well. When my mom was growing up, they didn't have a bathroom. They had an outhouse, and they didn't have running water. They didn't get running water and a bathroom installed into the house until later on in the years. So essentially, you can understand that my parents came up from nothing, and they worked their asses off to make something. Okay. And honestly, for real, no shade, but my parents aren't far off from seeing for colored only signs. You know what I'm saying? Actually, wait a minute. Dr. King died in 68. So that means my mom and my parents did see them. So my parents did see for colored only signs. My mom was 5 when Dr. King passed, and my dad is, I think, either 4 or 5 years older than my mom. So therefore, they were around when for colored only stuff was like going on, like the civil rights movement and things like that. Like they were alive for that stuff. So I'm going to bet some of y'all parents were too. Like, so no shade. Like y'all can understand what I mean. Like my parents really came from the struggle. Like they came from nothing and made it something. They did their big one. Okay. My parents met at my great grandmother's house. They started dating. I come along, they get married. That's their backstory. Okay. So this is how our journey ends. I was gonna go like give a deeper backstory on them, but honestly, this shit is about me. So fuck it. You know what I'm saying? This shit is about me. All right. So enough on their backstory. All right. My mom was 25, almost 26 when she had me. And my dad was 30 years old. So they're about 4.5 years apart. Okay. So think about this. Did you have it all together when you were 25 and 30? I know when I was turning 30, I was so scared to turn 30 because I felt like even though I was very accomplished, I had bought my house at 20, 19 going on 20. I had, my own cars, raising my child, and I was married at the time. I still am, but I was with my husband at the time. So I was in this like panic of like, I have it together at 30, but I'm not exactly where I want to be. Like I have so many things that I'm still trying to accomplish and stuff at that age. And I was just like freaking out because 30 was kind of like, to me, it was midlife for me. And I was just like, yo, like, I got to check my mic just to make sure it's still on. So I will be doing that periodically because I did one episode. The mic had died. Okay. So you're going to see me check the mic periodically. But anyway, so I didn't know what to do at 30. Like I was still trying to figure shit out. So imagine my mom's only 25 and my daddy is 30. You know what I'm saying? So they're still growing the fuck up. Like they're still trying to figure things out, especially my mom. My mom is still very young. Like my mom is still a baby. Like anytime I talk to a 25-year-old, I'd be like, man, you're still a baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? So they were babies. They were children, not children, but they were kids for real. I feel like I'm still a kid. I don't even know how I'm able to call myself an adult because I still feel like a child. So I don't know when I grew up, but apparently it happened. You know what I'm saying? But growing up, when my parents had rough patches, which were few and far between, they were rough. And when I mean rough patches, it could be financial rough patches where my dad, lost his job, or some sort, or it could be marital rough patches. It could be rough patches just with having, kids. And you know how sometimes kids don't always do right. So when they had, they had their rough patches. So when I say rough patches, it doesn't always necessarily mean within their marriage, okay? So when they had their rough patches were rough, okay? And I remember, now I am speaking on marital issues right now, but I remember their arguments, and they would get super heated. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because they would get super heated and they would get loud, and I would be pretending to be asleep in the bedroom across the hall. Now, if you heard my dad preaching at all, then you know that my dad is loud, okay? My dad can holler, okay? My dad's lungs is like that, okay? So imagine him, now, when he's preaching, he's passionate anyway, right? He's passionate. He's trying to deliver that message. He's trying to get it through. And sometimes that thing can come off like real super, super passionate, right? So imagine you being in a heated discussion, a heated argument, and you're passionate and you're emotionally driven and you're trying to get your point across and you're just loud, okay? Now, my dad doesn't lose his cool until he's had enough. So, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, their rough patches were not like often. They didn't have a lot of rough patches. But anyway, so you can imagine a man like my dad, like I said, if you've heard him preach, you know how loud that man can get. That man don't need no mic, okay? And you have him being super loud. But people look at my mom and they don't know this. But that woman is time enough for that man, okay? So you have a woman who is time enough for him, so you know she's gonna get loud too. So they're trying to, like, they're emotionally in the discussions. They're emotionally in this heated argument or whatever, and they're loud. And I don't think they realize how loud they are, but I'm in the room across the hall pretending to be asleep while hearing literally everything and learning all of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes and learning the things that I should know as a child and having to pretend like I don't know these things or that I'm not privy to what's going on. So I really feel like, first of all, that shit was rough on a child because it's like you're holding in emotions and you're harboring emotions, you're harboring thoughts, you're harboring feelings, and you can't release them, you can't express them, you can't speak to anybody about them because I've always been the one who knows how to stay in a child's place because my parents did not play that. Stay in a child's place. And again, it was none of my business, right? So I think it's here, and this is why I brought this thing up. So I think it was here in doing that, whenever they had arguments and stuff that I could hear and it would wake me up. I think it was here that I learned to not necessarily really be expressive, and to kind of like dismiss my emotions and not really like sit in my emotions, but like kind of compartmentalize them and move them out of the way so that it does not hinder me in my daily goings and comings. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, like, I really feel like that's where part of that came from, right? All right, so let's split them up. Let's get into them as individuals. Now, I'll be talking more about my mom because I spent more time with my mom growing up than I did with my dad, and we'll get into it when, as we go along. but my mom's portion is probably going to be a little longer than my dad's. Okay, so let's talk about my mommy. My mother is, and I'm going to try to get through this without crying, because when I tell you I love my parents so deeply, and I have such a deep and profound respect and honor for them, as an adult, as who I am now, and where I stand, and where I am in my energy, and where I am in my life's journey. Like, I have so much love and respect and honor for my parents. Okay, so my mommy is a phenomenal woman, right? She's gone through a lot in her life. She's gone through a lot in her marriage, in her career. She's been the most astounding example of a mom that I could have ever asked for. She's always been there for us. She nurtured us, and she allowed us, and when I say us, I mean myself and my siblings. She allowed us to take interest in things, and whatever we took interest in, she took interest in it as well. Like, she would make sure that she invested in our interests, right? And I'm not just saying she. When I say she, it's really the both of them, because they both paid for everything that we did. But when I say she invested into it, she invested her time, she invested her energy, she sacrificed her, whatever she could have been doing to make sure that we were wherever we wanted or needed to be, due to our interests in our hobbies and things like that. My mom, for me, myself, I know, like, my mom would pick me up from like jump rope club and math club and stuff, because I used to do a lot of extracurricular activities after school. And she would take me to basketball practice and all that stuff. So I remember my mom was very hands-on and very like invested in us and our hobbies and just our social lives, and just being, children being children, actually being children, right? She showed me how to be a homemaker. Sidebar, because I just found out this year, 2024, that my mom actually hates cooking. She does not like cooking. I never knew that. Like, that was such a shock to me. I thought she was joking with me, like, when she said that. I thought she was joking, and she was like, no, for real, like, dead ass. She didn't say dead ass. First lady, she didn't say dead ass. But like, she gave me like that, no, for real, dead ass. Like, I don't like cooking. And as much as I love cooking, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I could not believe it, but I learned so much from her. Like, I learned so much from her in the kitchen. And you know what I'm saying? She used to have me cooking with her by her side and stuff. And she can't cook better than me, not present day. But I have to give that to my mom. Like, she really, and that's why I'm like so baffled that she hated cooking, because she made me love cooking. Like, I love cooking. But anyway, she kept a tight ship. Okay. My mom did not play that. Okay. She wasn't the easiest to talk to, and she wasn't the most affectionate person, though. Now, there's a difference between being nurturing. You can nurture your children, but you don't necessarily have to be affectionate. You know what I'm saying? Nurturing and being nurturing and being affectionate is not necessarily intertwined. It doesn't always coincide with one another. So she wasn't the most affectionate person, but she did nurture us. My mom, she put in some. My mom put me in some weird and awkward situations that, I feel like they were weird and awkward. And I think that's her putting me. I can't necessarily say it was her. But it was one of those things where she would, because, we grew up in the church and stuff, and her and my dad, throughout the years would have issues. And St. Mary's is small, okay? So there would be services that maybe, you know, someone who she had issue with attended the service or something, and she would have to, like, you know, not dismiss her feelings, but she would have to put her feelings on the back burner because she had a lot to lose. And so she had to kind of like, I don't want to say be fake, but she had to kind of like be fake and be cordial and stuff like that. She had to be composed or whatever. And so I really feel like that's where I learned how to compartmentalize emotions as well, and to not really express how I feel until I get into somewhere private. And the reason I say that is because, like I said, she would have to be around, you know, people that she didn't necessarily care for. But don't think she didn't sound off when we got behind, you know, in somewhere private. Like, don't believe she didn't sound off to daddy, or, you know, she made it known how she felt. You know what I'm saying? So I've learned how to be composed, be cordial, and I can smile in the face of somebody that I really do not care for. And I kind of feel like I picked that up here. You know what I'm saying? From church, basically. Anyway, so I remember, you know, riding around with my mom after, you know, her and my dad, not directly after, but like maybe the day after or a couple days after her and my dad got into it, and she might not be over it and she's still brewing and stewing on whatever's going on. And her mouth is slick, okay? She say some slick shit. And if you're not paying attention, you won't catch that shit. But if sometimes you're like, hold on, I know the fuck she did not just say that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, yo, I don't know. And then sometimes you be like, you hear what she said, but you be like, I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to get into that because I don't want no parts. You know what I mean? So I remember she used to do shit like that. So, here's a perfect example. So we used to go down to church down where my dad grew up, down in Ridge, Scotland area. So we used to go to Mount Zion or St. Luke. So we would have to pass this lady, depending on the way we went to church. You can either go to Lexington Park side or you can go the St. Mary City side. And we didn't go to the Lexington Park side often. And also, this is you can go either way to get to my grandmother's house too. Keep that in mind. So either we was on our way to church or on our way to my grandmother's house, right? And it was this lady who I don't know. I've never confirmed, you know, any of my dad's affairs or cheating or accusations or any of that. All right. Whether it be true or false, I never confirmed any of that. So I just took what my mom said as what it was, as, you know, it could be fact, but I'm not sure. I'm just a child. She's just saying what she's saying, right? But anyway, so it was this lady that my mom could not stand, and I believe the lady, I understand why my mom couldn't stand her, because being around that lady, she did used to flirt with my daddy. She did. So my mom had every right to feel how she felt. Okay, we're gonna get there. But my mom, when we passed that lady's house, my mom would say like little slick shit like, that's where one of the bitches your daddy fucking with live at, or something like that. Like, now when my mom and them get angry enough, they do let out a few choice words. I'm not even gonna lie to you about it. So when she was in this energy, she didn't care what she said. Like, her mouth, like when I tell you, her mouth was so slick. But that's how I know where this lady lives, like, to this day, right? So now looking back on the example that I just gave, looking back at it as an adult, like I said, I understand where my mom was in that. Like, I understand her stance. I understand these kind of experiences. They make me understand her, and And I operate in the same way too sometimes, right? So I understand, her emotional anguish when she was going through these things. I understand her irrational thinking. I understand her irrational speaking. I understand her lashing out at times and honestly just being so fucking tired, like just tired and just done. I don't know how many times I've heard my mom say throughout the years, I'm tired. I'm tired. I don't even care anymore. I'm so tired. So yeah, but as a mom, I try my best not to do that to my child, because I knew how it made me feel. However, I did not always succeed. And so that's why I'm like, yo, like stepping back as an adult, I got to give my mom grace for that, because I've done that shit, being wrapped up in some anger or wrapped up in some type of energy. I've done that shit. So I got to give grace to her. Like I really, truly do. But anyway, growing up, and let's get into my teenage years. So we're getting into my teenage years, but now as an adult, I can see how my mom was in the midst of her own personal storms, all the while I'm acting out and trying to process all of the shit that we covered in episode 2 and 3. Okay, so this is all like a big stew of everybody's got their own shit. We're dealing with our own shit. We're trying to get through our own shit. We're trying to process our own shit. And we really don't want to deal with anybody outside of ourselves. But here we are. You know what I'm saying? We live in a household with each other. You know what I'm saying? So her and I bumped heads often. When I say often, I mean like quite frequently. I mean like really bad. So it was real bad during my teenage years. I remember constantly arguing with her. I remember not feeling heard by her. I remember just not wanting to deal with her attitude, and not wanting to deal with her attitude in turn, I felt like caused my attitude and my ego. And you can be a child and have an ego, okay? Because some of y'all kids got egos that y'all don't check, and that's why some of this shit that's going on in the world is going on. Because anyway, we're not going there. But anyway, my attitude was bad, and my ego was flaring, and so it was just a mess, okay? And honestly, if you asked me in my teenage years, I would have told you that my mom was the villain of my teenage years, okay? And it's just because honestly, it's because we were so much alike, and I was growing into becoming a young woman, a young lady, and some feminine energies and emotions and stuff were starting to kick in. And of course, that's around the time when you start to get your period and hormones and stuff started going and everything like that. So that's around that time, like, y'all, okay? So it was primarily my mom and I with each other at this time, because my brother was away in the Army. And at this time, during my teenage years, my sister was away at college. So essentially, both of my siblings were out of the house. Now, I won't say out of the house, like moved out of the house. My brother, yes. But my sister would come home from college and stuff. So she wasn't necessarily out of the house, but she wasn't there, right? She was not there full time. She was at college. My dad, he was also doing schooling. He was doing seminary. And he was doing, other activist things and stuff. And my dad was very, very, very big and very active in the community, especially in the Black community. He was on the NAACP St. Mary's chapter. Like, Daddy was out there doing a damn thing for our Black folks, our community. Okay. I was a spoiled brat. Okay. Whether everybody wants to admit it or not, my dad will admit it wholeheartedly. He spoiled the hell out of me. My mom spoiled me. She did. My sister spoils me. And at the time, my brother spoiled me too. Like growing up, like they all spoiled me, everybody. So, so sometimes, especially with the way that my dad and I are bond and how he used to spoil me, sometimes it would feel like my mom would kind of like envy the bond or whatever, because my dad did right by his kids. Okay. My dad did right by all of us. I know I'm speaking on myself, but my dad did right by all of us. You know what I'm saying? However, my dad did not always do right by my mom. You know what I'm saying? He didn't always treat my mom the best. He didn't always treat my mom well. So, you know, I can understand how resentment or envy or feeling some type of way, because he can be this, that, and the third to the kids, and he, you know, he's this way with me, me as in her. But I can understand how, you know, resentment and envy and things like that, negative emotions can rear its ugly head. Like, I understand that. Going through it, hell no, I didn't understand that shit. But now as an adult, yeah, I understand it. Back then, I didn't understand it because I didn't have enough life experience or anything like that. And honestly, I'm not even gonna hold you. I don't know if I really cared to understand it either. Like, I really didn't care. I was spoiled. What the fuck? I was over it. Like, whatever. But anyway, going a little further into, you know, my teenage years, and after, you know, me becoming a mother, my relationship with my mom transitioned again. We went from fighting like cats and dogs to coming out of that sense of resentment and I don't like you. I love you, but I really don't like you. And I kind of felt like that's what she was like to me. Like, I love you, girl, but I really do not like you right now. But we were coming out of that energy, and we were coming into understanding. We were coming into an understanding for me, as from her perspective, she had understanding for me as me being a woman and as a mother. And she, you know, no longer really viewed me as a child. I mean, she did, but she didn't, right? I was no longer a child to her because you adult enough to make a baby, you adult enough to have children, you know how that goes. So she treated me like an adult after that, after I gave birth. She treated me like a friend, okay? But there were moments that we had where she made it known, bitch, I'm your mama, okay? Didn't say the B word, okay? I'm embellishing, okay? But she made it known, like, girl, don't test me, I'm your mother, okay? We would have more adult-like conversations. She would have more adult conversations with me, and she would begin to open up, and she would tell me things, you know, that was going on with her and things that she was going through. And she would talk to me about things that her and my father were going through. Now, did she overshare at times? Yes. However, it made me realize that my mom suffered silently by herself, the same way in which I did, right? My mom, she suffered silently through depression, and I was helping her get through her tough times. Now, again, I don't realize that as it's happening. But me as an adult, me now, I understand that. Like, I didn't really realize how my mom was going through depressive states, but now looking back and seeing it, yeah, like how wouldn't she? Like, yeah. So anyway, there's a lot going on. But that's her story to tell. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. But you know, I was giving her advice that a child would not give. Like, I was wise. I had so much wisdom as a child, but I was always tapped on. Like, I was always tapped in to the messages that God needed me to deliver. And so I executed, and I executed well. Okay. And I'm going to speak on an incident that happened when I was 11. It more so is about a spiritual attack that I had, and I can't. It's it's going to be in my dad's part. Okay. I hope I don't forget to tell it. But anyway, so like I said, I've always been tapped in. My parents have always been so receptive to my gifts and to me being, this unorthodox type of person with this energy, and she just knows things, and she hears from God, and you know what I mean? So yeah, but sometimes I really feel like my mom didn't realize that she was talking to a child or a young lady. I really felt like she was talking to an adult. So I was the friend that she needed in those moments, and I love that. Didn't realize it at the time, but I love that. And I came to that conclusion because my mom, she slowly isolated herself throughout the years. And it really started when she started going through things emotionally, and like rough patches in her marriage and stuff. She kind of recluded and receded from everybody. So my mom didn't necessarily have a lot of friends, and she also wasn't the type to seek counseling. Growing up, I don't know if it was this way with them. I guess this is where they learn it from, but what happens in this house stays in this house type of thing. But my mom wasn't really keen on, seeking counseling and going to counseling and stuff. So she, maneuvered how she knew best to do. She, instead of counseling, she talked to me, and I was her counselor at 17, 18 years old. So that's starts my experience. But it wasn't just her, though. That's the funny part about it. I know this episode is about my parents, but it wasn't just my mom. I was giving advice on social media. Grown people was like, yo, like, are you sure you are not your daddy? Like, you are your daddy's child. Like, you're going to be a pastor when you grow up. Like, everybody like spoke so much life into me and told me like I have such a calling, and here I am. They were right. But anyway, but she talked to me. Now, there was a pastor who her and my dad were friends with, that she would express things to, and she would talk to, and she would share things with. But my mom ain't no dummy. My mom she understands energy. She understands her energy as well. And my mom knew what to hold back and what to keep to herself, right? So I felt like the things that she kept back or she held back, that she didn't express to the pastor friend, she told me, because she knew I wasn't going to say anything. She knew I wasn't going to talk to my dad about it. You know what I mean? So she spoke to me. And honestly, my mom and I still have that type of relationship to this day. We talk about our lives. We talk about what's going on with one another. My mom, especially here now within these last few years, after, leaving my marriage and stuff, she has really, 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 really been there for me. And I cannot really express the love that she's shown and the support that she's shown. My mom is such a class act. I swear, she is amazing. And I really think that us going through everything that we went through, and then us transitioning from fighting like cats and dogs, and then us transitioning into friends and that real adult mother-daughter bond, I think that's going through all of that was us laying a foundation to build to the bond that we have now. And it's beautiful. But at the time, me trying to figure things out as a teenager, trying to figure things out on my own, and dealing with the things that I was dealing with, sometimes hearing everybody else's issues and things like that became burdensome, right? But and I'm just being honest, for real. But I never really shared my true feelings on things, because sometimes I felt like my true feelings on things and how I view things or how I saw things, because I can be really brutally honest, it just wasn't warranted, right? So I just listened, and I opened my mouth, and when I opened my mouth, I let God speak through me, and I let God relay whatever it is that she's in need of and that she needs to hear. I let God speak upon her ears. And this is what I do now daily for my clients. I listen, I digest what they're saying, and I open my mouth and I allow their ancestors, I allow their spirit guides, and I allow God to just flow, you know what I'm saying? And give me the words to say and give me the things that they need to hear. So understand that I've been doing this since I was 17, 18 years old. So talk about life experience, right? Like, I swear, talk about life experience. Like, I've been doing this since I was 17, 18 years old, okay? So there is no school experience like life school, all right? So when people tell you, oh, well, I have this degree, I have this, sometimes it doesn't fucking matter if you have a degree or not, if you're degreed or not, or if you're certified. Yes, I am certified, but sometimes it don't matter. Sometimes that life experience is what you need to help others, okay? That's how pastors be getting through, right? Pick the mic. Anyway, now, oh God, we got to touch on this. And, we got to touch on this. When it came to my ex, God, I always known that my mom wanted a boy. She already had a daughter, my older sister. So of course she wanted a boy. And she wished that I was a boy, but I wasn't. I wasn't, although she honestly ended up with a female daughter who was really tapped into her masculine energy growing up. And again, some of the traumas that I went through caused me to be tapped into my masculine energy, put me into my masculine energy. But yeah, that's what she ended up with. But she took to my ex like the son that she never had. She essentially adopted him as a son literally immediately. She felt bad for him because he had it rough. Like, his parents were not the best. And when I say his parents were, we're gonna get into them too in this vlog, so don't worry, we'll touch on it. But anyway, because she felt bad for him and the things that he was going through as a child, so she really, really took to him, and she took him into her heart as her own. I wish she hadn't done that, but she did. So mind you, of all of the stuff that's going on. So mind you, this lady, she knows how bad my attitude is, okay? And she knows how it feels to be on the receiving end of my bad attitude, me not necessarily caring for you at the moment. Like, I don't care for you. I don't care to be around you. I just get away from me, leave me the fuck alone type of shit. Like, she knew how I operated in that energy, right? So she, like I said, she knew how it felt to be, on that receiving end of that. So, and keeping in mind that we butted heads real bad during my teenage years, and me and him got together in the 9th grade. Okay, so I'm still a teenager. But she always came from that stance when it involved him. Like, she came from the stance of, well, she got a bad attitude and she always this, that, and the third, and I know how she can be. She came from that stance. She never try to really understand me or ask me, why or what have you, what's going on. She always took his side, and she always took his side as law, okay? Plus, in high school, I used to really vent to him. So, of course, me and her butted heads. So who am I venting about? Her. So I used to, vent to him. So I kind of like accidentally gave him like the blueprint to manipulate her throughout the years. And like I said, accidentally gave it to him. I would have never given him any shit like anything like that on purpose, right? So he really knew how to play the victim with my mom. And he knew how to play the victim, whether it be within his household that he was growing up in, or fast forward it to our relationship and us cohabitating. Like, he knew how to play the victim. And like I said, I always felt like she picked a side and it was never mine. She would never fully hear me out until, and I know it's starting to get darker. My face is starting to get darker because candles are starting to go out and stuff. Okay. But anyway, until she didn't hear me or see me when it came to him until I left the relationship. Until I became so hardened that I became broken and soft and frail and vulnerable. And remember, this is like a real huge difference from the hard ass that, you know, she's used to. So this is different energy for her. She's not used to seeing me like this. And so I think it really struck a chord with her, like, okay, like, no, I gotta see about my baby. Like, I gotta see about my girl. She could not only hear how broken I was. Oh my God, I'm about to get emotional. I'm trying so hard to keep it together. But my mom, she could see it. But not only could she see and hear it, my mom could feel that shit. Like, she could feel it. You know what I'm saying? And so it was then that she was willing to take her blinders off, take her rose-colored glasses off, and wake up and be exposed to the possibility of truth that was different from the truth that she was receiving, right? And it wasn't until then that she could hear me. She could hear me out, and she could accept everything that was being laid out in front of her for herself. Now, you know, when I lay out shit, and when this vlog should be a pure prime example of that. When I'm ready to speak on shit, when I'm ready to lay shit the fuck out, when I'm ready to tell my story, when I'm ready to tell my side, you best believe I have receipts. You best believe I'm coming and I'm speaking in straight facts. You best believe, because I don't say shit unless I know I can back it up and I can prove that shit. All right? So she had everything laid out, and so that she could see everything for herself. And so she could get my side of things. Finally. Finally. I remember that she, it was an incident that happened, and I just totally, I let it all out. I was like, you know what? You never listen to me. You never hear me. You only take his side. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And she sent me a text message, and she said that she had to take a step back after that. And she had to pray about it, because when she heard me say what I said, she heard me differently. She heard me in a way that she's never heard me. She's heard me go off before, but she's never heard it to the point where it broke her inside. It made her feel a way. It did something to her. And so she said she had to take a step back and she had to pray about it. And God showed her that her daughter, I was right. She said that God showed her that she had been taking sides a lot and that she hadn't been or wasn't fair to me. And honestly, I still have screenshots of that, because that message was such a pivotal moment for me, because it was like, okay, maybe I can let my guard down with my mom. Maybe I can be vulnerable. Maybe I can express myself. Maybe I can talk to my mom. Maybe I can allow her to be my mom and be there for me and to support me and to love me, because I'm going through such a tough time and I can't always be a hard ass. I gotta allow people to be there for me at times. And so I kept that screenshot, because again, that was like such a pivotal moment for me in our relationship. Oh, child. I'm glad these are kind of going dark, so you can't really see me. So after that, my mom softened to me, and honestly, we softened to each other. Our struggles as moms and as wives, it really brought us together and closer as women, right? As feminine, divine feminine beings, right? As mom and daughter. And that's where we currently are today. My mom nurtures me today the way that I wish she did when I was growing up, the way that I wish that I had allowed her to during my preteen and my teenage years. My mommy is affectionate now. My mom, give me a minute. My mom gives me hugs and everything now, y'all. It's the best thing ever. The love and the understanding that I have for my mom now, I can't put into words. I honor her. I truly do. I honor her. I honor her struggle as a mother. I honor her struggle as a wife. And it's mainly because of what I went through myself. I just didn't stay in the relationship. I didn't stay in the marriage. She did. And I think that my marriage, my situation was much worse than anything that she's ever gone through with my dad. And of course, we'll get into that later on in the vlog. And honestly, I can't necessarily really say that because I don't necessarily know it all. I don't know all of what they went through. I know most, but I don't know all. And that's not to say that she's still enduring anything currently. They're great. You know what I'm saying? They're doing amazing. They fight like old people. They fight like old couples. It's so hilarious. But I just wanted to be clear on that. I don't want words put into my mouth, and I don't want people to make assumptions. But, you know, I do deeply understand my mom. I empathize with her, and I have such a large, profound respect and love for my mom. I know I've said that time and time again during this episode, but actual factual, baby. Actual factual. And we're not done yet with her. One more thing. When it comes to my son, Lord Jesus, when it comes to my son, she is my mom. She's not my friend. And this is growing up. Okay, this is not now. Anyway, she was overbearing. Okay, now she still sort of is. That's why I was like, she still is in a sense, but they, and when I say they, I mean her and my son, have tamed it a bit, and they've toned that shit down for real. Here recently, within the past couple of months, her and her grandson have pushed my buttons. Okay. Jesus, that last little incident, good grief. They pushed my buttons, but we were able to actually get through it better than we had been able to get through instances and things in the past. We've actually gotten to the point where we're actually addressing things, and we're not sweeping anything under the rug. We're not just moving on. We're actually addressing things. And I really felt heard, you know, when I addressed it with her. And she didn't really have no choice, because she knew that I was so angry. She had no choice but to hear me out and listen to how I felt about the situation. But in doing so, in all of that situation, and the whole incident, she showed me her growth. You know, she really showed me her growth in that situation, because in the past with her, when it came down to when it came down to my son, and y'all gonna know his name, when it came down to my son, her grandson, You can't tell her shit. Like, for real. Like, when it came to her grandson, you can't tell her a damn thing. And it was to the point where she was going to do what she wanted to do. And if you took issue with it, that's just you taking issue, and you just going to have to deal with it and get over it. But you just couldn't tell her nothing. You just had to deal with it and accept it. And honestly, that mindset, her having that mindset when he was earlier in his years, about 1 to 2 years old, is actually what made me decide to move out. I felt like my mom wasn't allowing me to be a mother, and that she was overstepping so much that I think it honestly confused my child on who the authority figure actually really was, even though we were supposed to be on the same team. You know what I'm saying? And I still think that's why he gets it fucked up on who the authority figure is at almost 18, because he'll undermine me and still go to her. And that's what happened in that little incident. And she'll just melt, like, she just melts and she'll go along with it. And she just goes along with his little flow. But like I said, this last little incident we had, I was able to see her growth, and we were able to talk about it, and she understood where I came from, and she assured me that that would not happen again. And so hopefully after the last incident, she won't be so quick to allow him to undermine me and going with his little flow. Okay? I'm actually going to put one of these candles from behind me in front. Okay? So we still have lights. All right? Okay, so that was Mom. And I know it was really long. That's probably about an hour, y'all. Damn. Sorry, Mom. All right, so let's go on to Dad. Okay? Now, I'm a daddy's girl. So, not too much on my dad, okay? Not too much on my mom either, bitch. All right? But not too much on my dad. Yo, my daddy used to pick me up, like, core memories, I'm not. My dad was very present during my core years, which is 0 to 7 years old. He used to pick me up from school, and he used to take me to restaurants. The restaurant that we really frequented a lot was Bon Buffet, which was my favorite Chinese restaurant. It was my favorite restaurant growing up. It was a Chinese restaurant. My favorite restaurant growing up. Y'all, I would tear up some Chinese food. My daddy will tell you, like, they used to think that I was part Chinese or something. Like, I would, like, crush Chinese food. And it was to the point where the people at Bon Buffet told my dad that they increased the age of kids that eat free. They increased the age because of me. They were like, there is no way that she's this old and she's eating like she's eating. Like, no, we're gonna have to lower that kids eat free age. So they lowered the age that kids eat free because of me. Sorry, y'all. So yeah. Fun fact. But yeah, my dad he would pick me up from school for lunch, and he would take me back to school after we ate and everything. So like I said, my dad was really, really present during my core years, the 0 to 7. I knew and I know that my dad is not perfect, right? But for the most part, daddy could do no wrong in my eyes. My dad can do no wrong in my eyes, except when it is morally wrong, except when it does push on my moral compass. Then I'm like, I can't rock with you, dog. Like, you wrong on this one, right? So yeah, but he can really do no wrong in my eyes. Woo, child. My daddy is an Aries. Okay, my daddy is an Aries through and through. My mom's a Scorpio. My dad is an Aries. Okay, so you can understand. Okay, he's stubborn as hell. And although my dad is open to talking to people and hearing people out and hearing their perspectives and stuff, when it comes to criticizing him and hearing other people's perspectives on him that isn't necessarily in the best light, child, he is not necessarily open to that. Like, he is not really open to that. It really has to be the right situation. Like, it has to be the right setting. He's got to be in the right mood for real. Like, because my dad is really stubborn, and my dad can take constructive criticism from people like his supervisors and, supervisory. But anybody outside of that, not so much, for real. Sorry, Daddy. But sorry, Dad. But I remember feeling frustrated when my dad started spending more time outside of the house, whether it be church, mentoring, the NAACP stuff that he was doing, activism. He was always in and out of school, getting certificates, getting trainings, getting his degree, you name it, etc. Like, I couldn't understand. And I really couldn't comprehend, because I was always, when I say always, I mean emphasizing on always, like huge emphasis on always with my dad. Whenever you saw Daddy, you saw me. Like, it was to the point where my dad had a 2-seater 300ZX, and he would have like a friend or my mom or somebody with him, and I would sit in the little trunk part. I would be like crouched down in the little trunk part. It had no back seat, but I would be back there because I wanted to be with my daddy. I wanted to ride with Dad. So yeah. But Daddy always made sure to take time out, even though he wasn't in the house, like we wanted him to be, or like I wanted him to be. He always made sure to take time out to spend with our family, spend with us, spend with my mom, just them two. He used to do daddy-daughter dates with my sister and I, and then when my sister went off, it was just him and I. Off to college, it was just him and I. We would do things as a family. We would take vacations, like he would take us on vacations and stuff. Every Sunday, he was home every Sunday. We went to church every Sunday. He was home every Sunday evening. Speaking of the evenings, he was home every evening. I don't recall a moment where I went to bed and my dad wasn't home. My dad was always home to kiss me goodnight or tuck me into bed or whatever. So like I said, I don't really ever recall a time where Dad was not home when I was gearing up to go to bed. So yeah, my dad was always present. So he was present, but he wasn't, you know what I'm saying? My dad didn't really involve himself in the drama of the household, and what the kids had going on, unless he needed to. And what I mean by what the kids had going on, us bickering and stuff, he would let my mom handle it. Our hobbies and stuff, because he was doing his thing, my mom would have to, take us and stuff. So that would be involved in what the kids got going on, right? However, my dad would come to the school, like when I say unless he needed to, my dad would come to the school. He would come to the school and he would speak. He would talk about, like, he would come to the school like for career day and stuff and speak. He would come to the school just to mentor, because there was like different mentoring programs that he would be involved in. But he would also come to school to check whomever, whether it be his children, whether it be teachers, whether it be administration. Daddy didn't care, okay? He was fair and he was just when he did it too. So it wasn't like he was just like taking our side on everything and then finding out later on, you know what I'm saying, talking to us and finding out that, he really shouldn't have took our side. No, Daddy had a fair assessment of literally everything. And he was very fair with how he handled incidents and things like that at the school and stuff. So don't think that my dad was not present. Matter of fact, speaking about him checking and being fair, my nigga, in episode 2, when he checked that nigga that I was at the park with, he was fair and just because he didn't put his hands on that nigga, but he put his hands on me. So that was his judgment. You know what I'm saying? That was his fair assessment. So, yeah, fair judgment. No, but for real, my dad was fair. Okay. I grew up under that spare the rod, spoil the child rule, and the rod that was supposed to have been spared was found upon my ass. Okay, upon my ass a few times for course correction. Yo, my parents believed in spankings, okay? And honestly, my dad was the executioner 95% of the time. My mom, she really didn't raise her hand and discipline us like that. It was dad. He laid down the punishments and everything. So yeah. I remember some of my dad and I's conversations and me feeling like I had to hold back because, again, he's a very stubborn Aries person and he's not very keen on criticism too. But as a child growing up, I always felt like, well, I have to stay in a child's place too. Because it's not my place to, you know, have certain conversations. That's how I felt. Not only that though, but like, I'm not even supposed to be privy to half the shit that I was privy to. So I didn't want to cause conflict. I didn't want him to think if I overheard something because I was asleep that my mom told me or something, you know what I'm saying? So not because I was asleep, because I was supposed to be asleep. I was faking sleep. So I just kept shit to myself. You know what I'm saying? But now, you know, I've been able to open up to my dad and talk to him. You know, now as an adult, I'm not as fearful to speak to him. And some things I do get rattled, but I speak to him about it anyway. I get rattled, I get nervous. Sometimes when I speak to my dad, when I talk to my dad about serious things and stuff, I still get in the energy that I was in when I was a child, and I still have that lump in my throat, and I still fight tears whenever I talk to my dad, because I don't know, it's just something about my dad, just daddy, you know what I'm saying, that just makes you want to just dive into his arms and have him hold you and hug you and say, you know what, baby girl, it's gonna be all right, like you used to when you were a kid. Things like that. And he still does that now as an adult. My dad has never not done that. And I think he would honestly be disappointed to know that I didn't talk to him about everything that I always, you know, wanted to talk to him about, or I was fearful of talking to him about certain things as a child. I think it would probably hurt his feelings to know that. So Daddy, I'm sorry. I really am. But I remember a few years ago, right? Y'all, it's been a journey to get here, I swear. I remember on the journey to get to here where I'm comfortable to talk to my dad, I told him in a conversation that, and he asked, it was him, he asked, I forgot what the conversation was about. Like, I forgot how we got there to this part, but he asked me something, or he asked basically if I felt like he wasn't there for me. And the way I answered, he wasn't necessarily expecting. And I think it took him aback, and he only heard certain things. So I told him, I told him that I felt neglected and abandoned in a sense. And him being the defensive Aries that he is, who, like I said, only hears certain things, he cut me off and he got defensive and he argued that, you know, he never neglected us and this and that. And he never really allowed me, he never allowed me to truly articulate my full thought process on that, the answer that I was trying to give him. So I've never been able to like elaborate on that thought process. But I didn't mean that he neglected and abandoned us in the way that he took it. I meant that he really wasn't totally there the way he thinks he was and the way that I needed him to be. Daddy, I don't think really knew how to be emotionally vulnerable. And so I think that's why he chose not to, you know, get involved in that sense. Long story short, I understood my dad's position and his role that he played in the household. I understood why he wasn't home. I understood that he was in school. I understood that he was mentoring. I understood that he was an activist. I understood that he was a minister. I understood that after ministry, he, you know, that lay leadership, that he was a pastor. I understood these things, but there were just times where I just wanted my fucking daddy. That's just point fucking blank period. It was just times where I just wanted and needed my dad. And sometimes I wish that he was more involved in the household drama, because sometimes I feel like I needed an advocate. You know what I'm saying? A fair and just advocate. You know what I mean? And he just wasn't home enough for that. Like, you can't be a fair and just advocate if you're not home, right? You don't know what's going on. My mom, she ain't gonna tell him herself, right? So, you know what I'm saying? She's not gonna tell, you know, what she did to trigger me or what I did to piss her off. Well, she's gonna tell what I did to piss her off, but she's not going to really necessarily tell her what she did. You know what I'm saying? And then honestly, like, I wasn't even really sure if I could speak up as a child anyway. So would I have been able to have an advocate if I wasn't really speaking up anyway? You know what I'm saying? So like, how could that have worked? You know what I mean? But it was just a really weird place to be in as a child. Especially like when you're told that you could talk to your parents about anything, and then feeling internally like, no, I can't. No, I can't. So yeah. This right here, I know this is going to be hard for a lot of people to probably hear or understand, but I resented the church. I resented the church a lot, and it was because it took too much of my dad. It took too much of my dad from me. You had Bible study, and mind you, at that time, this was before COVID, right? So at that time, Bible study was in church. It was at church. So he was out of the household, you know, for Bible study. It was him speaking at different services, service 1, service 2, him speaking at revivals throughout the week, and him speaking at men's day programs or men's retreats and women's day programs and usher days and funerals and community events and just whatever, you know what I'm saying? You name it, he was there. He was always out in the community. He was always fighting for our people. He was always standing up for what is right in our community, fighting for our rights within our community, fighting for the things that we did not want in St. Mary's and things that we did want in St. Mary's. My dad was advocating for change and prosperity within the community. And so, again, it's not that I didn't understand what he was doing. It was the fact that I'm a spoiled brat and I want my daddy. Point blank. I look just like him when I said that. Point blank, period. Like, I wanted my dad. Now, my dad is older now. Of course, he's not any younger. My dad is older now, and he doesn't do very many speaking engagements and things. And it's kind of funny because I'm the one who is out all the time, and I'm never home, and I'm always out doing this, that, and the third, and being social and things like that. So when I was staying with them, now that I'm sitting here thinking about it, I mirror my dad a lot now in my adulthood that I saw him doing as a child. I'm very active, and I love being active. So I understand him, and I understand his passion behind the things that he was doing, because I'm really passionate about healing, and I'm passionate about spirituality, and I'm passionate about waking people up. So I understand it. I truly understand it. But honestly, growing up, my dad was a bit selfish, and he was a bit self-centered. Everything kind of revolved around my dad, and my mom didn't get really her just due. My mom didn't necessarily get everything that I think was deserving of her as I was growing up as a child. She just let him have and do whatever he wanted. Not have and do whatever, but he just, if he wanted something, he was going to go after it. And she was just gonna be like, well, that's your daddy. He gonna get it. He gonna do what he want anyway. So just might as well get out of his way and let him go get it. Go reach for it. Go accomplish it. But all in all, y'all, my dad, amazing. He's a great guy. Like, my dad is honestly the perfect dad. Okay. He really is. Hands down. Like, honestly, I think my dad and my mom, they both did the best that they really could. And honestly, if you really think about it, they did amazing, for real. I'm the last of 3 kids. Okay. My parents had already established that, and my mom had a hysterectomy for medical reasons. And I don't think I got into the age gaps, but my brother is 7 years older than me, and my sister is 6 years older than me. So I felt like by the time I was coming up, my parents thought they pretty much knew what they were doing. And they kind of did, but they didn't at the same time, because they didn't know who they were dealing with. They were still, growing and learning. But I really feel like they were honestly on some, like fuck it type shit when I got into my teenage years. And I say that because they gave me more freedom than than I feel like they gave my brother and sister. They didn't pay too much. They didn't pay too close attention to me. My mom worked in DC, so she didn't get home till like 5:30, 6 o'clock. Daddy worked in, it depends on when we talk, because sometimes he was working at PAX, sometimes he was working at Suitland, but they really didn't have the time to pay attention to me. Daddy was really getting heavy into his ministry and pastoring and stuff. They didn't have time to pay attention to what the fuck I was doing, okay? Because they was wrapped up in the shit that they had going on. They was wrapped up in themselves, right? So that's how I ended up being so sneaky. And that's how I ended up getting away with half the shit that I ended up getting away with, like stealing the car, and they didn't know. And this was like during the daytime and at night. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, then that's also how I ended up getting pregnant at 16 under their radar. They were really truly blindsided by that. I know I really hurt them when I came up pregnant. But look at us now, right? But anyway, as you can tell, I grew up in a really traditional household. My dad was the provider. He did, he provided, he protected. He was there for his family. He was the head of household. My mom, she did the rearing of the children, and she maintained the household. And so that's why I am so traditional in the way that I am. I love to cook. I love being a domestic woman. Okay. I love caring for my family. I love caring for my man. I love caring for my children. my child. I ain't got kids, but I love caring for my child. I love caring for my household. I love cleaning. I love cooking. It really makes me happy, right? It fulfills me alongside with other things. And that's why I got the best of both worlds, because I got, that domesticated side from my mom, but I got that ambitious shit from my dad. And so that's why you see me like out here, like I'm getting it. Every time you turn around, I got another certification. Every time you turn around, I'm adding something to my repertoire. Every time you turn around, I'm just building. And so I really literally have the best of both worlds. I didn't have the most toxic environment, but I did learn toxic traits, right? My parents, when I say amazing, understatement, fucking phenomenal, okay? Fucking phenomenal, especially if you consider how they grew up, how they had to fight to give, us the life that they gave us, and still making sure we were morally on the right side, still making sure that, we knew who God was, we went to church, you know what I'm saying? They really did what they were supposed to do to give us a good life and make us good people. Really and truly. They were young and they were still trying to literally figure themselves out, figure life out as individuals, figure life out as a married couple. And then you got kids in tow. So you got to try to figure out a life for your children. And, as a whole, like, that's a lot. It's a lot. But when I tell y'all, my siblings and I, we turned out great. We have our flaws, but when it comes to their children, my parents did the damn thing. When I say 10 out of 10, would definitely recommend, even though they were strict, they were hard on us. Now, I will say, like, they wouldn't let me go to like go-go's. They really did not care for me to go to other people's houses unless they really knew the parents. So it was only a select few people's houses that I was allowed to go over. Some houses I was not allowed to spend the night because they was just like, nah, we catching certain vibes and no. So my parents, when I tell y'all, like, they were the best parents that I could have ever asked for. I am so glad that God allowed me to choose them, and I'm glad I chose them. I'm really glad I chose them. So I think we're gonna wrap it up here because this is long. This is long, but I had to talk about my parents. I had to make an episode about my parents because I would truly be remiss, and it would not be an effective shadow work regimen if I didn't touch on all of my childhood. I can't just touch on some of it and not touch on everything. I would have done myself a disservice. So when I tell you this shadow work is serious, and I'm making sure I cover all my bases with this shadow work, that's no exaggeration. So again, I'm going to end it here. This has been long enough. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for your support. Thank y'all for tuning in, and I will see y'all in the next video.